was fascinating because we're dealing with the genre, we're dealing with the time period, and we're dealing with the code. We shot every day outside with snow up to our knees, and we're dealing with the truth of the story arcs of the characters and so on, and the different ideas. So I thought there was so much there to play with, and I think the era of the Western had like gone away, and it was people remember it. It was great and so on. And then it just went away for a long time, and then someone messed around and accidentally made Unforgiven, and people were like, "Oh shit." Yeah, you can make a good Western again, and then the attempts started to come, and like some really cool things started to come out.
All right. So when I came out, right before we came out here, Elliott said, "This is all going to be for the actors, right? I'm just the eye candy." And I said,
I hope I'm not disappointing you.
I said, well, yes, it is for the actors. It's a SAG Q&A, but I've got questions for everybody here. And so I am going to start with you real quick. I'm just curious, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, if you were aware of Joe R. Lansdale's novel before this script came across your desk, and what it was about the project that made you think, yeah, I really want to make this.
Absolutely no relationship to Joe Lansdale, his novel. Confessionally, I have only read it once. And when I sat with the producer who gave me the script, it was very, very different. I wanted to turn the ideas on its head. I wanted the villain. The villain was originally written as a man. And I thought,
Talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
God, I'm being told off. I just wanted to take a lot of the tropes and just twist it up. And I never asked Joe's permission. I said, it's a question of interpretation. That's how you approach the work. And left some of the tenets, the good stuff in it, the sort of road movie aspect of it. And then, I just didn't listen to anyone.
Was there something that particularly grabbed you about it that made you jump into this feed first?
Again, I'm just being brutally honest. Yes, Peter Dinklage totally grabbed me. And the idea of being able to take a Western and reorientate it and put a super modern cast in it to have the sort of tapestry to be able to do it. And sort of like do it without abandon. I never talked to Joe. I didn't talk to Joe until, I don't know, 2 weeks after I edited the film. But now we're friends.
Let's talk a little bit about the casting process, and I want to hear how the two of you got involved as well.
From me. Well,
start here, yeah.
I got involved because I read the script and really adored it. And then I think there's something with the genre of the Western where people often, myself included, feel like everyone was tough as nails then. And I think lots of them were a lot tougher than we are today. But what really made me excited about this character is that he's not your traditional Western leading man that's being all macho and intense. And what I loved about Jack is how sensitive he is, and that when he's first met, it's that he's a Christian. God is very important to him. He doesn't belong in the world that he's found himself in. And the real heartbreaking thing, and what I love so much about getting to work on it and work with Elliott about finding how to mark those beats, is over the course of it, he knows he's going to die because he's already lost himself. The person he started the story as is gone, and he's done what he needed to do, which is save his sister.
Gbenga?
Well, I read the script, and I got a call from my manager at the time. He told me that there's this project, and if you can read this now, it was one evening. I was at home. If you can read this now, you meet with the director tomorrow. They're moving fast on this. I'm like, all right. And then I started to read it, and then she's like, well, if you read it now, you can talk to the director like now, like afterwards, if you like it. I'm like, okay. And so I read it, and then I said, yeah, I'll talk to the director now. And then we got on Zoom, and And I'm like, I like it. And we did, and we talked for, we just like talked. and then after, and then I said, I'm down to do it if you'll have me. And then he said, yeah. And then we made the movie.
From such modest origin stories, superheroes sprang. Were there specific discussions that you guys had about these characters with Elliott? Were there ideas that you came where you were sort of like, hey, what would you think about this? Or is there something that we can try here? Because I think you hit on something. These aren't, we'll get into this a little deeper in a second, but like these aren't typical Western characters. I mean, it's not a typical Western, but these also aren't like, they're just enough of an archetype that you can recognize them, but they're just kind of different enough that you feel like you're watching something completely different.
I'm sorry, would you say the question one more time? I got so lost in what you were saying.
I know,
That's
it was
so
so beguiling.
Jack of you.
I guess just if you guys had specific discussions about where you guys wanted to take, as actors, where you wanted to sort of take these characters and how it kind of fit into the big picture.
Absolutely. So the big thing that Elliott and I worked on was finding all the ways in which he had to be the tough person that would survive and would get it done, and all the places we kind of could add a different color. And what was really fun about like finding softness in this character, that the world is so unaccepting of softness, that me and Elliott just had a great process of like at certain points he would just pull me aside, take my head in his hands and just go, "You've got to be a badass. It's just, it's not acceptable." I was like, okay. And then I get around there, run around with a gun, ride some horses, and do my best.
You sound British sometimes.
My own problem, not American.
I was like, is he yeah, it's
I grew up in London for a while. Sorry, I'm not the worst person.
oh,
who's
okay. This
pretending
is the
to be
first.
English.
Okay, this is the first time.
Yeah, just so you know, I
I was
don't
like,
suck.
because I didn't hear this at all when we were shooting. I was like,
I was locked in zone only there.
it was fascinating because we're dealing with the genre, we're dealing with the time period, and we're dealing with the code. We shot every day outside with snow up to our knees, and we're dealing with the truth of the story arcs of the characters and so on, and the different ideas. So I thought there was so much there to play with, and you know I think you know the era of the Western had like gone away, and it was, you know, people remember it. It was great and so on. And then it just went away for a long time. And then someone messed around and accidentally made Unforgiven. And people were like, oh, shit. Yeah, you can make a good Western again, you know, and then the attempts started to come, and like some really cool things started to come out. And I love the angle in which this Western comes at it, because it's an inflection point here in this new world, right? You know, cars are starting to come about, and there's people obviously, you know, out there. The cultures are mixing in different ways, and not just like the dominance of you know, white Europeans that come and take the land, but now it's like, you know, people are out there just trying to survive, so, and figure things out. So it's an inflection point for everyone, and that's actually what kind of brings everyone together, you know, through these really bad circumstances, where like there's this mission, and we all sign on for this mission, you know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is going to surprise nobody because I'm a middle-aged man with a wizard's beard, but like, I watch a lot of Westerns. I can't think of another Western that I've seen that starts off with the main gunslinger antagonist whizzing by on a motorbike. Like, I know, I did some research after I watched the film and was like, no, they were actually motorbike. Like, this all kind of tracks, but it's such an inventive way to start a genre that is so recognized by its conventions that even when it is different, even when it's not just John Wayne showing up and shooting a bunch of indigenous people, but is actually something that is getting into a bunch of different things, people still recognize it. They still think of it as a conventional story, a conventional type of storytelling. And this just immediately kind of throws that to the 5 wins the second you see those first 2 shots.
What really got me excited about this period, and you're so right, is like the second the century turned and everything started to change, is that this movie really feels like the end of that era. And that's what you feel with like the motorcycle that Juliet is riding on in the beginning and then kind of leaving it on the ground like a dead horse. People don't even understand what that technology is. And you start to see what will begin to be such a better change for humanity. And then it's funny watching it this time. I just sat and watched it as well. And what really surprised me and moved me is like how grateful I am that look at where we've come. And that so many people, rightfully so, talk about our modern society with so much hate and so much sadness, which is fair enough for many reasons. But looking at this story, wow, the world was a cold and brutal place. Yeah. And I'm happy to find even a hot shower. We have a lot to be grateful for. And that's one thing this story really made me feel.
As actors, how does it feel to get to play in that space? Because they don't make a lot of Westerns these days. They still make them, but they don't make them the way that they used to. And so I don't imagine that you guys have a lot of projects that you could classify as Westerns coming across your desk.
That's funny you said that. This was my first Western, and I just shot my second one like a month ago. So back-to-back Westerns.
We're not talking about
yeah.
that. You want to cheat on me?
No, it's a polygamous thing.
He has nothing.
You're my first love.
I'm not.
And so I'm in my Western era now. Yeah, and I'm digging it. There's a free. I like to ride horses. Funny enough, I every once in a while I get to ride or get trained to ride horses.
So good. It was really embarrassing for the rest of us.
And it's just because of projects here and there that you're gonna learn this, and I just like keep the knowledge, and so I enjoy doing that. So in a project that gets me on a horse, like up the mountains and the snow, all those different things. So there's a freedom in, honestly, we're kids again. We played these games when we were younger. Like we called them, cowboys and Indians back there, or cops and robbers, whatever. But we get to like play these games. So it's to me, it's not terribly sophisticated. It's like, we've got a mission. We get to like ride horses and chase bad guys, and maybe sometimes we're the bad guys, and then things get complicated, and like we just got to survive,
On a scale of 1 to dear God, I'm never doing this ever again, how cold was Alberta?
Oh my God.
It was unbelievable.
Can I speak to this?
Oh my God.
So, minus 35 with a wind chill factor. But I haven't said this to them in public. So I'm out there with my Canada Goose and my Patagonia and my minus 450-degree boots. These guys have on a pair of leather boots, and just like a very thin coat. And I have to say it's a testament to the desire to be authentic, to just show up and work through that, because people were dropping like flies. But these guys were like, they showed up every day on time, hit their marks. A few complaints, but not from these two, ever.
The real thing regarding the thanks. It really was horribly cold, I must say. There's the one scene at the beginning when it's like we're running and the man is about to get hanged, and I'm really trying to go stop him and find out where my sister is. And that night, it was about 3 a.m. and it was negative 35, and a blizzard is like, all of that is completely real. And Elliott so kindly really liked that I kept getting pushed in the snow. So we really needed to do so many takes of me falling headfirst into piles of snow. That was really fun, and eventually he did have mercy. But in the movie, my favorite thing about shooting outside is you see your breath everywhere, and it's just so amazing the way that looks. And there was never a simpler time I've ever had acting than being that cold, because all you do is try to say your lines. Like, there's no bullshit, there's no nonsense. All you are doing is trying to be heard as you are managing to get through every sentence.
I mean, I have to imagine that just filming up there, just as actors, that's got to add to the immersive experience of trying to transport yourself back to like the beginning of the 20th century.
Absolutely. The cold, the horses, the getting ornery, and like all those things. It's like, oh, we are living it. We're in it right now. The horse shit. like it's all very real.
But that's, again, it's a testament to the craft, to be honest. you know, just speaking a little bit seriously about acting, the idea you have to be completely immersive. You have to shut down that element and that you're fully invested in the character. And you have to, that all has to disappear, you know. And there were times when, you know, we thought one of the actors was going to get frostbite. Wimp. And it got heavy for them. But, you know, I felt pulled off some tremendous performances, you know, despite the cold. Maybe the elements helped.
Oh, absolutely. It helped and hurt.
The other thing is, just if I may, just segue a little bit. Calgary is full of hunters. It's you know, they're hunting people. And we would show up on sets and they would present us with elk and moose and all this different kind of meat, you know, and it was quite strange to then go home and then I would have these like barbecues where we would just cook this hunted meat, and it was quite unusual, not what you'd expect, but I think that helped them get into the role a little bit more.
Absolutely. And it was so cold. And in Calgary in the winter, there really is not much going on. Not that I don't know. And so Elliott would just have these dinners like a few times a week where me, Gbenga, everybody, we'd all get together and eat the elk that Elliott would bring for us. And it just made it feel like our whole world was this film for the 6 weeks or so we were out there. And it was just everything about the temperature and the food. It was a really immersive experience. And I think that's watching the movie. Hopefully it feels that way, that you kind of get sucked into this world that feels so alien to today, but still so alive.
I mean, I don't care what anyone tells you. Here's the truth. Making a movie this way, it's about the hang. It's about how you're going to get on. You are really a band of gypsies, you know, pitching your circus tent, doing your thing, and then you're moving on. You know, and I think we had a good hang. We all still talk to each other. Although I'm not going to talk to Gbenga after this because he has another Western.
I love this Western though.
Sure, you said that to the other guy.
You guys both share scenes with Peter Dinklage, but your characters have very, very different, very respective relationships with his character. Can you guys talk a little bit about working with him and establishing these very separate rapports, but that also kind of have to sort of filter together and all, you know, work in tandem?
Well, for me, it was really easy. He's the easiest person I've ever had to work with in my whole life because his style of acting is making eye contact and having a real conversation with you. And it doesn't matter if you're in the snow or firing guns or on horseback. He manages to connect and feel real. And it was just such a pleasure to get to work with him. And our relationship on screen was hopefully different than our one in real life. But really, I admire him so much that all of the scenes of trying, whenever I had something I wanted from him, which is the whole movie, I need his help. It was really a wonderful experience working with someone who taught me so much and was such a mentor to me on that set. Getting to be asking for help constantly in the film was just, the line between the acting and the real life was started to feel like nothing but an accent.
A British accent?
Yeah, it's true. Peter is actually quite fun and easy to work with. It was effortless working with Peter. We'd try this, we try that. Doing a movie, particularly an independent film, particularly one in Calgary, it's constantly problem solving. You know, the scenes are already problem solving. We're trying to figure it out, but everything else are other problems equations we're trying to solve for. And Peter, as an actor and producer, just always made it very easy for us to do that and contribute and play with. You know, he was great to work with. Remember when we went to the casino?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
We had one of the strangest experiences of my life going to a casino. Peter Dinklage, unsurprisingly, is, I think, the world's most recognizable man in the world because he walks into any place. And I think oftentimes when you see a dwarf, my first thought is often, is that Peter Dinklage? And a lot of people have that same thought. And when it is Peter Dinklage, we went to this casino. It was a zoo.
Well, you have to say there was a concert that was going, a country western concert.
Oh, yeah.
Plus it was a casino. Plus it was like late night. Me, Levon, and Peter like, let's go to the casino. All right, cool. So there was a lot of strange things happening, and then the three of us walk in. And people were like, it was very. We were just trying to find a table to just gamble at. And it's just, it got very complicated, and then we kept getting followed, and then we could see the things, like the news spread around us, and then I realized, oh, we really have to be protective of Peter for a number of different reasons, and because at first it was just the three of us going. It's like, oh no, we have to choose where we're going to sit, like carefully. We have to, all these different things. And eventually, we're walking all around this casino and sitting here, all kinds of stuff. Then finally, somebody comes. I find someone to try to find a space where we could just be, and they end up taking us to a private room where we could just sit down and gamble. I'm like, oh, that was exhausting, you know. But then we got to actually just play and bond. It was really cool.
It was wonderful. And one thing regarding Peter's performance that was my favorite moment in the whole movie is this line Peter has after he nails this poor man's cock to a chair, is I say that's not fair when he's going to leave. And Peter looks at me and says, you look at my face and tell me if you think I give a shit about fair. And it was funny sitting here tonight because it got a laugh. And of course it does. But in real life, when he said that, it was one of the more moving experiences I've ever had acting, because you look at his face and it doesn't matter if he's that character or he's himself. The world has never been fair to him. And watching it in this world just means, you know, with Juliet and her scars and Peter and the way he is, it's like this world was cruel to outsiders and cruel to all people, as it still is. And the way Peter brought so much of his self and his humanity into this part that can feel like it's in such a different world was just so moving to me.
You just brought up Juliet, which, as you said, the character in the book, and I think you said as the character was written in the script, was written as a man, right? So at what point did you guys consider changing the gender and thinking about Juliet to cast her in that role? You look at it now and it's a no-brainer, but I imagine there was a decision at some point that was made about this.
It's a really interesting, quick decision. I don't write. I can spell, but and not very well either. But I was given the material by an executive, and her name's Shannon Golding, and she said to me, I want you to read it, and what do you think? And it was written as a man. She goes, and Peter Dinklage, he's the producer and he's starring in it, and he's had this thing for 10 years. I took her away and I read it, and normally you'll hear the sort of cliche, I couldn't put the script down. That wasn't the case here. I read the script and I was like, we can make this stronger. And I went back and I said, all right, here's two things. One, Cutthroat Bill has to be a woman. There's just no other way for it. I mean, there is historic characters that will speak to who she is, a character like that exists. And the other thing is I have to meet Peter Dinklage this week. And if you can make these two things happen, then, then let's go play. And she said, okay. And then the following day spoke to Peter. And by the end of the week, I was in front of him. But just to be candid, when you go to meet an actor, especially you're going to meet Peter Dinklage, you normally you want to be clear, right? You want to be focused and clear. Well, I decided to go out drinking the night before and was like, I woke up, oh my goodness, I've got to go meet Peter, walked across the Brooklyn Bridge in the middle of winter and discovered I was asthmatic and had an asthma attack. And showed up, and I was like, Peter, I don't know what Peter thought. Anyway, Peter walked in, sat down, and I didn't want to be anything but resolved in my ideas. And I said, look, here's the deal. I want to make it this way. I want to do it that way. And if you're on board, then we can get a little bit of magic together. And if you're not into it, I get that. And then I think he and I just bonded and felt like we wanted to make the same movie. And I had a true partner in him because he's also a producer. Now, when actors are producers, that doesn't always mean they do things. This guy was relentless. You know, my beautiful wife, Brooke, is here, and we had Thanksgiving in Palm Springs, and I couldn't get off the text because everything was an idea. It was just like a flood. So you're working with also a really brilliant producer, and you're also working with a true artist. And I think we just linked up on it. We both wanted to aspire to something. Maybe we got there. I don't know. I think so.
I want to give some time for the audience to ask you guys some questions, but before we do that, you know, when I was looking through the press notes for the film, there was one word that kept coming up over and over and over again, and that's family. And so I'm curious from the three of you here, what you think this film says about families, both the biological ones and the ones you eventually gather around yourself.
I myself have 4 sisters who I love very, very dearly. And I think that really what this movie is about is family and lack thereof. And in this world of this movie that's so cold and so brutal, it really is the only thing that these people have remotely to look forward to. At the end of the movie, when Esme says that, you know, she doesn't know anybody in the world other than Peter, it's true. And the family is all that they had to hang on to. And the second I met Esme, we really... I just fell for her completely, and I think she's a wonderful human being. And it's funny, even though we really only have 2 scenes, one at the very beginning and one at the very end together, they were some of my favorite days on set because we just felt really connected. And that I think that's Jack's complete intention the entire time, is that, you know, why would he give away the land? Yeah, as Eustace says, it's a fortune, but it's all for naught if he can't get his sister back. And I just spent the entire time, Lula is the name of the character of my sister. I have a sister named Luna. And it was just my whole head the whole time was just what I would do for this kid. And it's absolutely anything. And that's the one thing that I think really hasn't changed from this period in history to today.
Chosen family, you know, it's funny because, you know, we're all New Yorkers, and I think that idea about chosen family is a big thing for New Yorkers. It's such a tough city. It's such a hard city, especially in this business that we're in. You know, we're probably all transplants. We've been here, I'm sure, a long time, but you don't meet a lot of people who are born and raised in New York. A lot of people from someplace. You're born and raised in New York. You were born and raised here, weren't you?
Most of the time, other than when I'm getting shit for.
Yeah. So, but you have to, like, especially during the holidays and all this, you have to, like, choose. You know, eventually your artistic community, and then you know, then the holidays you have to choose your family and the people who can hold you up when the city is grinding you down, right? I think that's, and whatever mission you're finding yourself on. You know, I've come here to be an artist. I've come here to find myself. I've come here to find chosen family. Whatever it is, like this, I feel like that. This movie speaks to that. It's interesting because there were 2 very different, well, many, I'm sure, different experiences, but particularly there was 2 movies being shot at the same time. Like we didn't, like, I shot most of my stuff with, you know, him and Peter and so on, and it was about a third of the way through did it dawn on us that there was another movie being shot. There was a whole nother, you know, storyline. There's a whole nother, like, a group of actors shooting, doing something like that we didn't see. It's like, oh yeah, they're having a very different experience on this film, you know, because we're chasing them. And so it was fascinating. Then after a while, we'd, like, meet up at, like, the bar or someplace and start to talk about our different experiences. Like, that happened. You know, that's what. It's like, that didn't happen to us.
We were the chill side.
We were the chill side. We had a great time, you know, like. But it was fascinating to see, like, their family make it through the cold winter of shooting this movie, and then our family make it through the cold winter of shooting this film, you know, both on screen and off screen. So it's fascinating. I think it all fed what you saw.
We've got to wrap it up, but thank you guys so much for coming out, and thank you guys for being here and bringing the film.